Why always saying yes is destroying you. Carl Jung on Self-Betrayal. You say yes a lot. Sometimes it slips out before you even process what's being asked. You agree to help, to stay a little longer, to fix what others broke, to carry what they dropped. You show up, you give, you stretch, and they love you for it. You're the dependable one, the understanding one, the strong one. You've built a personality around being the one who always says yes. And why wouldn't you? It's what made people like you. It's what helped you avoid conflict. It's what made you feel needed. In a world where so much feels uncertain, being needed felt like safety. But here's the part no one tells you. Being needed is not the same as being valued. Being used is not the same as being loved. So ask yourself, when everyone gets what they want from you, when do you get to ask for anything? What happens to your needs, your voice, your limits? Do you even remember what they are? Most people don't notice the slow erosion of their self. It doesn't come with a scream. It comes quietly, like exhaustion that doesn't go away, like resentment you keep swallowing, like a smile you force when you're dying to scream. You say yes because you're kind, right? Because you care, because that's who you are. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Saying yes isn't always kindness. Sometimes it's fear. Fear of being rejected, fear of disappointing, fear of seeming selfish, fear of not being enough. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." And that includes accepting this. Every time you say yes just to avoid guilt, you betray a part of yourself. Self-betrayal doesn't always look like pain. Sometimes it looks like performance, like doing everything right while feeling everything wrong, like being praised for your patience while you quietly suffocate under the weight of everyone else's needs. You think you're being good, but goodness without boundaries isn't virtue, it's self-erasure. You were taught that saying yes makes you likable, but no one told you it would also make you invisible. And now, piece by piece, you're disappearing into a version of yourself that everyone else loves, except you. You weren't born saying yes to everything. At one point, you cried when you were hungry. You pushed away what you didn't want. You reached out for what you loved. You didn't apologize for existing. That version of you, that raw, unapologetic self, it was pure, but it didn't last. At some point, you learned it was safer to be quiet, to be polite, to behave. You learned that your anger made people uncomfortable, that your sadness made them annoyed, that your joy could even make them jealous. So you adapted. You made yourself smaller to be accepted. You smiled even when it hurt. You said yes when everything in your body screamed no. And slowly, you disconnected from the part of you that told the truth. This is what Carl Jung meant by the persona, the mask we wear to survive the world, the version of ourselves shaped by expectations, approval, and fear. We all need a persona, but when you confuse the mask for who you truly are, you lose yourself. And worse, you start to resent the very people you're trying to please. But resentment feels wrong, doesn't it? You tell yourself it's ungrateful, that you shouldn't feel that way. So you push it down, and down, and down, until it leaks out in passive aggression, in burnout, in emotional numbness, or maybe it just becomes a permanent tension in your chest, a silent protest that no one hears. You may look calm, but your nervous system is in a constant fight between pleasing and collapsing. This is the paradox of the chronic yes-sayer. You think you're keeping the peace, but inside, you're at war. Jung believed that what we repress doesn't disappear. It becomes part of the shadow, the dark, unconscious side of our psyche that stores everything we reject about ourselves. Every time you say yes out of fear, you're adding to that shadow. Every time you ignore your limits, you give that shadow more power. And the longer you avoid it, the more it controls you. You're not just tired, you're split. Part of you wants to be liked, part of you wants to scream, and neither part trusts the other anymore. So you keep performing, you keep adjusting, you keep pleasing, but deep down, you know it's not sustainable. And the scariest part, no one's going to save you from this pattern. Because to the outside world, you're doing just fine. You've spent so long wearing the mask, you've forgotten you ever had a face beneath it. It started as a survival strategy. Be nice, stay safe, keep peace. But over time, it became your identity. You became the one who always says yes, the one who fixes things, the one who doesn't need much. But here's what no one told you. When you always show up for everyone else, you slowly stop showing up for yourself, and people stop expecting you to have needs at all. That's when it starts to ache. Not in a sharp, obvious way, but in a quiet, chronic way, like waking up each day with a subtle sense that something's missing, and you're not allowed to ask for it. You feel unseen, not because others are cruel, but because you trained them not to look. This is the curse of being agreeable. You become so easy to love that no one ever learns how to care. Carl Jung said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." So let's make this part conscious now. You're not here to be useful. You're not here to be easy. You're not here to meet everyone's emotional needs while denying your own. You're here to be whole. But wholeness isn't polite. It's messy. It means setting boundaries that disappoint people. It means saying no without explanation. It means holding your ground even when your voice shakes. And it means facing a terrifying truth, that for some people, your worth was based entirely on your compliance. And once you stop bending, they'll stop loving. But let them go. Let them go, because their love wasn't love. It was control dressed as affection. If the price of belonging is abandoning yourself, then it's not belonging. It's emotional exile. And here's the thing. You can play the role forever. You can be agreeable, likable, adaptable, and still wake up one day hating the life you built, because it's not yours. You're not broken. You're buried under years of being good, under layers of guilt, under the weight of other people's comfort. This isn't weakness. This is a wake-up call. And the real question now is, are you ready to meet the version of you that never needed permission to exist? You say yes to keep the peace, but what if the real war is the one inside you? Saying no isn't hard because you're weak. It's hard because deep down, you believe your worth is conditional. Conditional on being liked, on being wanted, on being useful. You don't fear rejection. You fear becoming invisible once you stop performing. There's a voice in your head that says, if I stop pleasing them, will there be anything left of me they'll still love? That voice didn't come from nowhere. It was built from moments when you were made to feel that being too much, too angry, too sensitive, too honest would cost you connection. So you edited yourself. You shrank. You called it maturity. But it wasn't maturity. It was survival. Carl Jung said, people will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And the hardest thing you'll ever do is face yours, unfiltered. You're scared of saying no because you know what follows. Disappointment, silence, the shift in tone, the subtle withdrawal of affection, and worst of all, the voice inside that whispers, see? You're only lovable when you're useful. That's not love. That's a contract. A contract where you sign away your needs in exchange for temporary approval. A contract where the fine print says, be easy, be available, be small. And you signed it with guilt. But what if you tore it up? What if you let people be disappointed? What if you said no without the need to explain? What if you were willing to be misunderstood just so you could be free? There's a loneliness that comes with being real, but it's not the same as being alone. It's the kind of loneliness that clears the room, not because you're unworthy, but because you finally stopped performing for people who only loved your silence. And yes, it's scary. Because for the first time, you're not protecting them. You're protecting yourself, not with walls, but with truth. That's the shift. That's the break. And breaking is the beginning. Because the self you've been betraying is finally starting to speak again. They called you kind because you never refused. They called you easygoing because you never argued. They called you good because you kept giving. But here's what they never said, that every time you silenced your no, you were building a version of yourself that didn't belong to you. Until now. Because something in you has shifted. You've started to hesitate before agreeing. You've started to pause before offering. You've started to question whether being good is really worth being empty. And people can feel it. They can feel when you stop being emotionally available on demand. They can feel when your silence is no longer submission, it's sovereignty. When your no isn't a rejection, it's a return. Carl Jung said, "In each of us, there is another whom we do not know." And maybe that other is the version of you that doesn't need to be liked to feel real. The one who can sit in discomfort. The one who can watch someone's disapproval and not flinch. The one who chooses alignment over approval every time. Here's what they won't tell you. When you reclaim your boundaries, the people who benefited from your lack of them will call you difficult. Let them. That's the price of self-possession. Because your silence now isn't quiet desperation, it's containment. It's no longer the silence of being overlooked. It's the silence of watching clearly. No more over-explaining. No more softening your no. No more feeling guilty for protecting your energy. This isn't arrogance. This is inner order. This is what it looks like when you stop outsourcing your worth. Let them wonder what changed. Let them feel the gap your emotional labor used to fill. You don't owe anyone a version of you that makes them more comfortable. And you don't need to shout to be heard anymore. Your absence says enough. Your energy, once scattered everywhere, is now a fortress. This is how power feels. Not loud, not aggressive, just clear. There comes a moment in every performance where the actor forgets they're acting, where the smile no longer feels fake, where the lines come naturally, where even the mask starts to feel like skin. And that is the most dangerous part, because you think you've adapted, but what you've actually done is abandon yourself so thoroughly, you mistake compliance for peace, emptiness for calm, and being liked for being loved. But peace built on your silence isn't peace, it's a truce with your own erasure. Carl Jung believed that the greatest tragedy isn't pain, it's unconsciousness. And what's more unconscious than constantly giving yourself away just to earn permission to exist? So let this be the end of the performance. No more saying yes out of fear. No more apologizing for existing. No more mistaking exhaustion for worth. You don't need to be needed. You don't need to be liked. You don't need to be easy to carry. You need to be real. Even if they call it selfish. Even if they call it cold, even if they leave. Because if you have to betray yourself to be loved, it's not love, it's a transaction. And you, my friend, are not a product. You are a voice that's been quiet for too long. You are a boundary that's been broken too many times. You are a soul that's finally coming home. So next time they ask for more help, more space, more sacrifice, pause, breathe, and ask one thing. What part of me has to die for them to stay comfortable? If the answer is any part at all, walk away, because you're not here to be consumed. You're here to be whole.